Hey there, everybody. This is your girl DePunk, one of the co-hosts of the Nuts and Bolts in Writing. Today, we're beginning a mini-series on the Bioshock franchise, with a focus on the most recent incarnation, Bioshock Infinite. While it received mixed reviews from Bioshock fans, the game itself found an unlikely yet passionate niche following from unconventional gamers. And if you know us at the Nuts and Bolts in Writing, we're all about the unconventional, and good storytelling, as well as solid characterization. One of Infinite's strengths came from the main character, Booker DeWitt. In the game, the player takes on the role of Booker, a hardened, jaded man who now faces the consequences of his choice in the colliding worlds of Bioshock Infinite. The game also tackled heavy issues such as racism, white nationalism, religious extremism, toxic parental relationships, and redemption. The twists and turns of this game were not without controversy. Creator Ken Levine's choices, much like his anti-heroes, were called into questioning concerning characterizations and depictions of the political and social conflicts. Gamers too felt the gameplay and immersive world were too far removed from the trademark claustrophobic fatalism of the two previous installations. However, despite its flaws, Infinite has proved an unexpected masterpiece in terms of capturing its raw humanity through the experiences of Booker DeWitt. But it's not just Booker alone. Infinite's cast of compelling characters have empowered the game's strength of story. Even Booker himself pulls some fast punches on the gamer. Booker is not just one individual, but the original version of many versions of himself throughout various timelines. The main antagonist, the radical leader Zachary Comstock, is the direct consequences of a choice Booker made in one such timeline. Also, no spoiler alert yet, but we will find out. We will reveal later what we have learned about Zachary Comstock and his relation to Booker. But returning to the antagonist, Comstock embodies and executes a terrifying reality of white Christian nationalism. While such values and sound bites of Comstock's driving theology resound with some of the alarming rhetoric we hear today, we've decided to explore this more in depth in this episode. And without further ado, I welcome the fantastic and marvelously talented Fortunus Games as we both pry in and delve into Bioshock Infinite.
Hi. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Bioshock with you. Back in April, I really wanted to share Bioshock Infinite with you, and I was so glad to see that you enjoyed it. The game covers a lot of topics you've been investigating, such as white Christian nationalism, American patriotism gone extreme, right-wing politics, religious extremism, and homeschooling. So the first question we'll discuss is, Booker is actually Comstock in another universe. What do you think set the stage for an alternate Booker to become Comstock?
Very good question. And Bioshock Infinite is so rich and replete with all these subjects, and it tackles them in a very interesting way. Where it faltered in a lot of things, I think it did very well like this. So I think, I mean, in my personal view, what set the stage for Booker to become Comstock in that particular timeline, I think it's a lot of it is psychological and emotional vulnerability. Even if Booker is growing up in a time where, things such as emotions or psychology are not considered or valued or treated, if we will, not even in this day and age because of, hypermasculinity. Booker is still very much a vulnerable, broken man because of his experiences. um I think also too the difficulties of the conflicts with, his own heritage, family, things like that nature, which I think we'll probably discuss in further down the road here. But all that compiled with, struggling with alcoholism and being a recently, widowed parent. I think these are what, I mean, this is what turns him to, find some lunatic like Whitting who's, dunking people in rivers and stuff.
Do you think Whitting is basically like a mega preacher?
I think he is. I mean, the scary thing is that I kind of drew a parallel with that wedding. And my dad suffered similar stuff. My dad at one point, it was a, I think, fall of 86, and my dad was struggling with alcoholism too, and of all things, he was not sleeping for several months. But anyway, long story short, he turns on the television, and lo and behold, is this mega preacher, probably one of the most evil men walking on the earth, Kenneth Copeland. And my dad buys into it. I mean, he even calls their hotline on the phone to pray the sinner's prayer and get born again. And from that there on, my dad led down a path of destruction and all sorts of awful things. So yes, I guess this is the equivalent of Booker somehow finding some, crazy lunatic like Whitting and taking a dunk in the river. That's what it's like. It is. It's fucking scary.
And also the lack of accountability, because once he gets dunked, he has all of his sins erased, and that's why he starts thinking that he's a prophet and stuff, because when he doesn't accept the baptism, he's still burdened by his sins, so he doesn't want anything like that because he doesn't think he deserves anything.
Exactly. That's what I love about the end of Bioshock Infinite is when he tells Elizabeth, do you think a simple dunk is going to undo everything I've done? And I love that Booker held himself accountable. And in the end, he actually did take the final baptism, a literally, fatal one, to, what I mean? He holds himself accountable to the point that, he realizes in order to stop this madness, but also maybe pay for what he's done, he allows his end by Elizabeth's hands, which is it's a very moving form of justice in a way. I know a lot of people maybe thought it was grim or fatalistic, but it's a form of justice, whether or not we want to, accept it like that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think when he did tell Elizabeth, during the game, that no one should have been forced to suffer like you have. Because, when he found out about the tower, how she was being experimented on and later tortured by Comstock, he vows to, take care of Comstock for her sake. And he doesn't want her to get her hands dirty. So that's why he thought he had to get rid of himself.
Yeah, and that is a rich and like that is a profound thing, like, and also that realization that this is he has to take this responsibility, and also it's his own child when it comes down to the big shocker of it. I mean, even if it wasn't his child, it's still the right thing to do, and it's a moral encapsulation all around either way he does it. But it's just it's a beautiful form of justice. I hate to use the word beautiful, but I guess profound would be better.
Mm-hmm. The second question: Comstock himself is an unorthodox antagonist. Unlike most antagonists, he's deluded that he's really saving a chosen people and believes his own form of religion will save the nation. But he's turned to other means to make his reality come true. What do we make of his religious extremism?
So the rhetoric employed by Comstock, especially in the beginning when you're picking up voxophones, pretty much sounds lock, stock, and barrel of your average American mega preacher or average cult leader. I want to say that all, I guess I shouldn't say all because someone's going to get mad in the comments. Not all. Or some moron's going to say based IDK.
Oh no.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing: the majority of mega preachers preach a similar rhetoric that resembles this kind of absolute of authority, and this whole thing of I'm just a sinner saved by the grace of God. And you know what? That doesn't help you hold accountability, because yes, you're forgiven, but what are you going to do to make reparations for the wrongs that you've done? People say, oh, I can never do it. Well, you have to do something. At least you have to be held accountable for something. But I guess to turn back to this whole political thing, um, the rhetoric that Comstock employs really resembles what is found in a lot of American exceptionalism, white nationalism that is very unique to American society. I won't touch on other societies, mainly because I'm not from those societies, and they can deal with that garbage they have. And if anybody wants to chime in, what kind of weird nationalism, y'all have got going on in your countries, go ahead and chime in, because it's just a big cluster fudge of a mess, y'all. But um I guess to put it succinctly, it's the fact that there is this authority seizing authority because they are absolutely right, and because they were chosen, and because they are the exception rather than the rule. That's the scary thing. And I think for me, that's what makes Comstock, and he tries to galvanize all of his followers, and that's what a lot of American extreme religion does, especially like this weird evangelical Christianity, which is just like a weird cult that makes people have 20 children, or you can't wear pants, or heaven forbid you might learn about science, or
Evolution.
evolution, or women cannot wear swimming suits, might lead men to sin, and all sorts of nonsensical rubbish that puts everyone
Rapture.
back in, yes, rapture. um but
Gog
yes,
and
so,
Magog.
Gog and Magog. But so this is what makes Comstock terrifying. And honestly, Comstock just sounds like I mean, Comstock's rhetoric just sounds like you see on the radio and on the internet and everything now today. So there's not much difference at all. There's not much difference at all. What are your thoughts on this whole cabal of madness?
Yeah, that's why he's one of my favorite antagonists in video games, because he's not like a cackling villain. And also, he's so timely. I know this game was made in 2014 before Trump and all of that stuff, but this is the best time to be replaying it because, we're seeing the rise of the extreme right in the United States with the likes of Ron DeSantis, the Warren Woke, Daily Wire, and of course, all these pastors supporting Trump, they sound like Comstock, like, oh, Trump's the chosen one, and it's all political. Comstock's religion is just as political as those mega church pastors who support Trump.
It pretty much is. It is all just religiously motivated, and it's to make money, to be honest. So anyone listening in saying that, oh, but they're going to do this or that for the country, no, all they want is your money. If you get a few gold coins out of it, that's just because of the economic pendulum is swinging, and you're just the sucker that bought into it. That's all I can say for all the IDK based people who are going to comment.
Right.
IDK.
Well, also it's because they think they're taking the country back from, whatever they don't like. Comstock, he thinks he's taking the country back from, non-white people, people who don't have his religious beliefs, everyone else in the quote unquote the Sodom below. And that's why he had to create Colombia, to separate himself from the sinners below and just have this, society that he envisioned.
Pretty much, and that's pretty much the agenda of the right wing, whether or not they want to admit it. They're like, oh, I'm colorblind. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you are? I just love to
Exactly.
play the devil's advocate, because they're not.
They're
They're not.
not. Yeah.
And um but yeah, I can't wait to talk more about Colombia, which will probably be we'll talk about it further down the line.
Mm-hmm. The third question is, are we, oh wait, we already kind of answered this, but the third question is, are we facing a similar trend of religious extremism today, especially in the US? And I already said yes, of course. With the rise of Trump and people like DeSantis and, this increasing polarization and quote unquote the war and woke, it's very obvious now. And, as I said many times before, especially in private conversations, in the US, people have this tendency to lump everything together. So if someone only agrees with one thing from the right, for example, lower taxes, right?
Right.
Eventually, there's a chance they could get pulled into the other things like anti-abortion, evangelicalism, rapture, pro-Trump, pro-DeSantis, anti-LGBTQ, because the algorithm on YouTube and Facebook and stuff is that if you watch one thing that's right wing, whether it's about taxes or the IRS, like trying to steal our money or something, and like collecting gold coins, like, Ron Paul or something. Like, that seems innocent, but then the more you read into it, you get sucked into other things. Like, for example, Ron Paul talks about, abolishing the IRS, and then you read his other stuff, which is like pro homeschool. And if you read his pro homeschool curriculum, you're going to see a lot of stuff about Western civilization. And, and he doesn't outright talk about religion that much, but if you look deep into it, he does question evolution. So then you get into that stuff, and then from there you go into the Daily Wire, and then you start hating LGBTQ, and then you start, I don't know, probably watching religious videos, because some of the Daily Wire people, like Andrew Clavin, they always talk about the Bible. So then you get into that, and then you might become a dispensationalist at the end of this.
Exactly. The Daily Wire, not even Shapiro's eyebrows can save them from their own damnation.
Yeah, exactly. They know what they're doing. They're a funnel. Like,
they are
they basically just, talk about the most eye-catching things, and then from there you gradually watch their other videos, and then you get brainwashed.
Exactly. It's kind of like it's like someone was telling me about the pipeline from being a nerd to being a fascist. And it's like, I mean, probably I'm hitting a hot button topic, but we've already opened up, Pandora's box here, so we might as well dig deeper. Yeah, there is unfortunately a pipeline from nerd to fascist. So all my nerds out there, please be careful. Please be careful of the rhetoric, and don't listen to all the different people on Quora and Reddit. They do have some common sense, but if they have a username like Alpha Male 03, stay away from them.
I know. And the whole anti-woke thing is bleeding into fandom, because people are getting mad over, for example, a race change, and then they start having these conspiracy theories about how woke people want to destroy everything or something and replace all of their favorite characters.
I know. And I feel like a lot of corporations, in trying to salvage what they can, they're trying to do this, but it's just alienating people. Don't try to alter that. Instead, make original characters that are compelling. And whatever you do, don't make faux pas. Like, don't pull, like we will be talking in another podcast episode. Do not pull Daisy Fitzroy's or Dr. Sushong's, which are just god awful.
Exactly. I think another problem with the color blind casting, the more I think about it, it is a political choice. And they're actually pissing off everyone, because, people of color want to see accurate representation that's respectful, and not just, a white character being turned black, for example. That's not respectful, because you're implicitly saying that black people don't deserve to have their own stories told. They only deserve to have a white character being turned black. So it's only an aesthetic change. It's not, an organic change where the character actually is black, is part of the black community, and, experiences black culture.
That is a wonderful explanation. That is an excellent explanation. And this is why people are mad at it. I mean, and this isn't only just people who don't like woke, but people actually from these communities are very upset with it.
Exactly. So now it's polarizing people who don't like quote unquote woke, and also people from these communities. And that's also why Hollywood's losing a lot of money, and a lot of people are not watching their stuff anymore.
They are not. Hollywood is bombing constantly. I was watching even a powerhouse, what used to be a powerhouse titan like Pixar, is now bombing. Like their recent movie Elementals bombed. And this was supposed to be coded for racism, but they handled it very heavy-handed, I think, and it did not resonate with people because they're kind of rehashing a formula, unfortunately. Unfortunately, for the most part, I think Pixar has become formulaic. Occasionally you're going to get a masterpiece like Lightyear. But nobody appreciated Lightyear, so
yeah,
loss on all
one
sides.
YouTube Christian preacher, not naming him, but you know who he is. He's always talking about God's telling him this. He said that he had a vision from God telling him that Lightyear was a faux pas by Disney because it was woke. And he said, well, God's gonna punish Disney.
Well, I think, and that's the weird thing. It was not woke, but people saw the elements and assumed it was woke. And it was not. It was a masterpiece. But the dangerous assumption of wokeness is what unfortunately killed it. Nobody gave it a chance. No one bothered to
Yeah.
see it or really love it for what it was. I think if they would have made it original and not slapped the name
Yeah.
Lightyear, changed some of the designs, it would have been just a beautiful example of beautiful storytelling with a sci-fi setting. Not even sci-fi,
Yeah.
because it's very realistic. I mean, NASA
Yeah.
might do something stupid like
Yeah.
this. Wonder what they're
Exactly.
spending our money on
Yeah,
to send everyone
exactly.
out here. But speaking of sending people and the government money and whatnot, okay, and I just realized I sounded like one of those weirdos on the talk show radio about government money. I'm like,
What,
sounds like
Ron
Rogan.
Paul?
I was thinking like Joe Rogan, like kind of
Oh.
like Joe Rogan. But let's talk about Colombia. The is it okay if I open with this
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Okay, let's talk about Colombia, the floating country of Comstock's radical reality. So there was a theory bouncing around that this was originally DC. This made me happy because I'd spent quite some of my formative years in DC. I love it. It's a beautiful city. It's a little wild now, but it's still a beautiful city. So there's that theory. We'll jump into that. But the first question is, what can creators learn about good world building from a world like Colombia? Because compared to Rapture, not comparing apples to oranges, but by damn it, Colombia is so much more fun than Rapture and all its broken crap.
Right. So, what I think so is that, people always said that Rapture feels alive, but
Oh,
Colombia doesn't. Like someone was on Reddit was saying that, in Rapture you feel like people have lived here, and then you see a splicer going off in the in the distance, screaming to himself and talking to himself. They're like, wow, what a tragedy. And I understand that, but
yeah.
I don't think Colombia feels manufactured. I don't know why
It feels
people
more
feel like it
alive.
does. I guess it's because you don't hear people talking to themselves or each other as often.
But I feel like for me, Colombia feels a lot more lived in. And there's also layers. And, people want to talk about suffering. There's plenty of suffering when you go down to the other levels. And, you kind of see what the workers and the factories are. I mean, Fink's, god awful
Hmm.
dystopian hell. And you see the environment that Daisy Fitzroy has lived in and she's trying to actively help. Yes, I mean, honestly, thinks a dystopian hell. I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, Philly in the 1880s. That's what it feels like, man.
That's true. I think they were also saying that the think part, like especially the worker part, there were only like two or three people scrubbing floors when they could have, 20, and it would have been better. But then again, one scene can't have too many NPCs.
And also, to remember, Fink is employing that beautiful capitalist system of making two or three people do the job of 20 people. And I know that from personal experience, my friends.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I think another thing that I really liked about Colombia was that there was diversity. There were different types of levels and different colors and different themes. I know that Rapture also had different themes, Persephone in uh Bioshock 2, which was the prison. And then you had Arcadia, which is where they grew their food, but the coloring and textures, they all look very similar.
It's all very much on the same gradient. And unfortunately, with Bioshock 1 and 2, you're presented with a very sickly filter. It's a bit like in cinematography, where certain color filters denote a certain type of ambiance, and that's what unfortunately it suffered from, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't help that a lot of the enemies were the same. They were just different types of splicers and actually the same model repeated over and over again.
They were splayed, and even like the catchphrases and NPC catchphrases, they were pretty much the same. Like you would hear them on repeat, like everything's Jake, or I see you, I'll get you,
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
exactly. Yeah, and it was just
Yeah,
getting really tiring.
it was. And I think also Colombia has this vibrance, open air, open sky. You have very interesting technology too, like the sky rails, the airships. I mean, that just stretches the imagination beautifully. Like that even goes beyond steampunk. Like it's just
Hmm.
gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Right. And the final question is, despite the striking contrast in its ensemble, what makes the Infinite cast work? We have characters ranging from the powerhouse populist leader Daisy Fitzroy to the enigmatic but charming Lutesses. What makes this cast work? What can we learn about a character cast working together in a heavy story like Infinite?
Such a good question. And this is what makes Infinite so much more charming and engaging and tragic and compelling. I think it's because somehow, despite the flaws in its depiction, the storytelling interweaves everyone perfectly together, whether that's someone like Daisy Fitzroy, who's this powerhouse of a leader. And then you get, these, much needed relief breaks from the Lutessas, who not only help you but provide information, but they also add an air of intrigue, mystery, and just this wonderful charm. And then you have that, then you're confronted with, the conniving capitalism of Fink, and then you have the just the fatalistic ideology of Comstock, and this interweaves so perfectly with the different political factions fighting and just everything. And then you are drawn into Booker and Elizabeth's personal journey while this is being interwoven, and it's such a rich world, and you feel like you have investment, and there's stakes, there are major stakes in this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think the fact that we actually see them interacting with each other. One thing I didn't like about Bioshock 1 and 2 is that they're all just reduced to recordings, all the characters.
That is so frustrating. On one hand, it's a good way to get little tidbits out of a character, like getting extra voxophones from Daisy explaining about, her frustrations, and you really you want to know her more as a character and understand her. Or whether it's the Lutessas telling you about the physics of what's going on. Um, but if you don't have interaction with the characters, the recordings can only do so much, and it makes you feel like you're just listening to a very flat radio drama.
Exactly. Did you feel like that for Sinclair, for example?
I did. Like, I wanted to like Sinclair, but we don't get to see him for the most part. He's just a recording. We don't get to interact with him, and he's not like, we don't see him helping us. It's just like a door opens or something. And he's like, "Good job there, son. I just opened
Yeah.
that door for you there."
Yeah, I
You
know.
know
How
what I mean?
convenient.
Convenient that he opened that door for us there, son. But meanwhile, we get to interact with people like Daisy, and we get to interact with the Lutessas. I know for me, my favorite part was always the Lutess. I just love them. They're just like, they're so out of place, but they are, as they say, they are needed where they are and there when they're needed.
Absolutely. I agree about Sinclair from Bioshock too. I mean, even when he was, remember he appeared for a split second and then he went into the train, right? And then he disappeared and then he's like, I'm on the train or something. I'm like, I can't see you. Where the hell did you go? Like
I
he's
mean,
like
so
so
much help he
yeah,
is.
why doesn't he sit next to us like Elizabeth was, when we boarded all those different things, the airships and stuff. She was always next to us. I mean, honestly, I think Sinclair should have appeared when he actually said he wanted to join us on the train.
Exactly. He should have joined us on the train. He should have been like like at least sitting with us on the train, smoking a cigar, showing us a map or something. Having more interaction. I know I don't think big daddies can consume alcohol. Well, I guess they can, but he shares a drink with us. You know what I mean? Like the Lutessas, they're at a bar, Robert's scrubbing the bar, and here pops out Rosalind with a vigor. She's like, try this vigor. And you have an electromagnetic field put around you with her crazy ass vigor.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's and even like, I guess the whole thing about the choices in BioShock too. Remember, you get to choose whether to kill Grace or not, and there's many other characters you can choose not to kill, like, Gil Alexander. Do you think that counts as interaction or not really?
I I don't think it does. You know what I mean? Because the interaction, we don't get to like have any emotions with them, bond with them. So this isn't like, say, even someone like Daisy, who I feel like we'll talk in the other podcast was done a disservice. You feel for Daisy because you get to know her right from the beginning. You just she's just so vibrant. You understand her right away, and you get to work with her. And it's sad when everything goes south. And another thing too, you work with Lutessas, and the Lutessas are very, very charming, and you see the dichotomy of the twins, and you know it, the thing is I think you need more episodes, more events for the characters to interact and really take root in you, but you don't get this in Bioshock 1 or 2. You just get a moral decision and that's it, and then you just get recordings, and then they just conveniently help you, like, Grace saying, I guess I'll whisper something in their ear to make them go away. I'm like, okay, that was convenient.
And then she sends the bots, the whirly bots, and the two turrets appear and fly by your side. That's it.
That's it. And of course, Sinclair's always opening doors, so he needs to open more doors, damn it.
And then he uses the pneumo thingy to give you like, I don't know, a first aid kit or something.
Says, you're looking rough there, son. I better drop you a pneumo kit.
I know, like that's too convenient. But yeah, thank you so much for this awesome episode. And I think we really summed up why we both loved Bioshock Infinite so much.
I think we did. Bioshock Infinite is a masterpiece. I hope more people will give it love. I know it's been 10 years, but it's still a masterpiece. It still slaps, it's still solid. And it's a beautiful work of art that should be revisited, especially during this tumultuous time in the US. If anyone's out in the US, play this game and don't be scared if it sounds what's happening on the news.
It sounds identical that it's so scary.
It is. It is. Everyone strap in. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, you know what? I think every time Fox News is playing, it sounds like Comstock.
It is. It is pretty much. I mean, I think Comstock, if televisions would have been invented, he would have been like the founder of Comstock News.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.